Wow, it sure has been an interesting road getting to Born Again, starting all the way back to when the original show was cancelled back in 2018. And the fan outrage caused us all to do the Save Daredevil campaign for literal years, to the point where people were putting up billboards to bring our beloved characters back. Of course, Marvel heard our cries and brought them back to varying degrees of fan satisfaction. But those reintroductions got us the green light to what we've mainly wanted: the continuation of the original series, and Marvel did not give us that. Instead, they hired the most questionable writing team and had the most brilliant idea ever conceived to mankind. What if we made the original series not canon, but bring in some of the same actors? And that blew up in their face. Hard. To the point where they fired everyone and did what they should have done since the beginning: brought back original writers and crew from the Netflix series and subsequent series like Punisher, and kept everything canon to the MCU. So to say I was concerned about this show is an understatement. I was utterly terrified of the outcome of this series. Daredevil and Matt are one of my top 3 favorite fictional characters of all time. And I've been attached to the original Daredevil show since the first week it dropped on Netflix back in 2015. My love for this show is so strong, and I'm sure it is for most of the fans of that series. But man, I was fucking blown away by how excellent these first 2 episodes were. In fact, the positive to negative ratio is so heavily sided to the positives that I'll just get my very minor nitpicks out of the way because it'll take like 20 seconds. The only main consistent issue I've had so far is the CGI and green screens. They have been pretty goddamn bad in the first 2 episodes, and it is distracting as hell. The higher budget overall is a bit distracting, but they still keep that grounded grittiness from the original show, but in a drastically different way, which is not a complaint. Another complaint I have is the first fight with Bullseye is honestly really bad. The unnecessary CGI is horrendous, and the fight itself is extremely underwhelming. And my final nitpick that I can't really comment too much on yet is the absence of Foggy and Karen. And well, yeah, Foggy obviously is gonna be absent, rest in fucking peace. But I haven't felt their loss as much so far in the first 2 episodes because their presence is still heavily felt, so it's more me hoping we get more of them throughout the season. More so with Karen, since she's still alive, and with Foggy we can get some flashback scenes. Anyways, let's just get right into everything else, which I adored wholeheartedly, starting with the opening. I was living in perpetual fear for months, thinking Foggy and Karen would die, and well, it was just Foggy. Which I think is a great decision to have only one die instead of the 2 of them, and as much as it broke my fucking heart, I completely agree with the decision because it sets the tone of the show off to such a dark ass place, and puts Matt in such an emotionally compromising position. And to see that Karen and him have become estranged doesn't feel like they are writing her out of the show, but genuinely feels like a natural progression of the story. But we'll get back to that in a second because we have to get back to Foggy's death at the hands of Bullseye. Because damn man, that death was handled with such gravitas and respect, in horrifying realism, that I honestly had trouble watching that scene because of how disturbingly real it felt. I seriously couldn't even cry, not because the scene wasn't sad or executed right, it's actually the opposite. It was executed too perfectly that I felt horrified being forced to watch it. And the fact that it was Bullseye, a character we already know and have an established history with, that killed him, making Matt feel guilty because his Daredevil life put Foggy in that position, ultimately leading to his death. It just all felt so earned. Which of course led us to Matt dropping Bullseye off a fucking roof in such a simplistic way that it genuinely had all my friends and I have an audible gasp. Like, the opening went pretty much how I thought it would, except when Matt goes to kill Bullseye, I expected it to be this very over-the-top death where he just brutalizes him. And somehow, that simple, I'm so hurt and shocked that I don't even want to waste another second of having you alive on this earth, so I'll just kill you immediately, really made that scene even more brutal and shocking. An even better decision was to keep Bullseye alive because it's a constant reminder to Matt that he went against his moral code. And it actually seems like Matt is going to want to kill Poindexter this season and have to grapple with that after deciding to leave Daredevil behind due to that very exact reason. Anyways, minus the very underwhelming action scene, the opening itself was such a superb way to open the show, which leads us to the time jump. One thing the show does exceptionally well is making us feel like this truly is a season 4 to the original series, but that time has passed, and all of our characters are in substantially different points in their life. We'll get to Fisk in just a second, but I want to focus on Matt and the new life he's created post-Foggy and Daredevil. I love it. I enjoy the new dynamic he has with Kristen McDuffie, who is a character I thoroughly like from the comics a lot. And the new love life Matt has found himself in is genuinely sweet and seems to have actual connections to the narrative of the show going forward. I also like that Matt has his own little Mike Ehrmantraut, this retired officer who has turned to a life of PI, which I wonder who else in Matt's life is a PI. So far, everything in Matt's current life is interesting to follow, and yeah, I do look at these scenes and wish it could have been Foggy and Karen, or even Jessica. But I'm okay with the approach the creative team is taking, which honestly, I'm 100% certain that once the second season rolls out, we'll see Karen back in a bigger capacity, and we'll get some, if not all, our defenders back. With that all said, we move on to Fisk, who I think has an even more interesting turn in life choices, with him not only becoming mayor of New York, but trying to turn a new leaf. With him, like Matt, turning away from his kingpin persona, giving up a life of crime, and in his point of view, doing something good for the city and its people, while of course still being a major dick. And I love the smaller changes D'Onofrio has made to Wilson, like him laughing at situations, finding more humor in life, while also keeping that threatening undertone. Another amazing aspect of the character so far has been his way of controlling his emotions, now that he's been enlightened, or whatever the fuck happened to him at the end of Echo. But seeing the consequences of his decisions, especially the one to be mayor, have taken on his marriage. Building off of where we left Vanessa and Fisk at the end of season 3, where she wanted to be a part of the crime life, ultimately leading to her taking charge of Kingpin's business, making her the Queenpin, I suppose. It's all very intriguing. Also, damn, she really had the balls to cheat on Wilson? Like, fuck man, that pussy's a death sentence to anyone who enters that's not Fisk. And she knows it, which once again shows her morals. Putting someone else in danger because she yearns to be wanted. But it's also something you get behind because she feels like a secondary thought to Wilson while he's off having a mental breakdown in Echo. Random thought while writing, how the fuck did Fisk and Dex get out of jail after the end of season 3? It's not explained, and honestly, who fucking cares? But now that we've gone through our main characters, I want to get into the technical aspects of the show. I'm enthralled by the direction so far, particularly in episode 1. The way Benson and Moorhead used the camera in that first episode gave such a surrealist atmosphere, giving it an almost dreamlike quality. It was such an experience to take in that felt so drastically different from what we've seen before. A big example of that is the way they used aspect ratios to show off Matt's powers was so much fun and unique. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the over-reliance on CGI. Like, y'all couldn't find someone to do a backflip? But that's my only real technical complaint. And yeah, as great as the direction has been, nothing will compare to that original show in terms of fight choreography, lighting, camera work, and above all, the cinematography. Moving on from there, the way the show portrays New York is great. Still not as exceptional as the original series, but great nonetheless. And the one thing that makes it all come together in such a brilliant way is the use of BB Urich's person on the street style interviews, getting to the heart of New York citizens and how they feel about the state of their city. And so far, how they are incorporating her character into the plot has been quite delightful. Which, speaking of newer characters I haven't mentioned yet, White Tiger has been a fun inclusion while also adding some much needed turmoil for Matt in this early stage of the season, since we don't see him as Daredevil. And you can already feel the tension that storyline has brought, having Matt slowly come back to his old ways. And overall, it gives an insight into the state of superheroes in the MCU in a way Marvel Studios hasn't explored since Civil War. So, with all the thoughts I could think of said, I believe so far Born Again is an admirable successor to the show I grew up loving, while respecting what has come before, while also having the guts to do different and bolder things. And connecting to the MCU in a way that feels organic and not tamed down in not only violence, but in tone and higher excellence in writing that has been lacking from other projects currently in the MCU as of late. I am super happy with the direction of these characters I hold so dear to my heart, and cannot wait for the story to progress further through not only this season, but the next. I'm wishing nothing but the best, and am so happy that I can sleep well knowing that the man without fear is being done the justice he so desperately deserves.